Yo, what's going on, everybody? Am I on? I think I'm on. That looks good. Okay, live going, 12 seconds. People coming into the chat. Okay, I see you. I see you there. I hope you got the text message. I sent out the text message. Get rid of this thumbnail. Who needs a thumbnail at a time like this? We're doing a show. Welcome, everybody. Just going to do a few seconds of a pre-show here. Don't worry. Everything's going to work out great. I hope you got the text message. If you didn't get the text message, you know what to do. Well, maybe you don't. Text the word Canary to 877-740-3226. That'll make it so you get a little notification before we go live throughout the week. Not just this show, but also Canary Cry News Talk, which, let's face it, that's why we're all here. If there is anybody new that comes into this show, I mean, that is just a straight up act of God. No algorithm wants you to be here. No platform wants you to be here. They've pretty much outright just told us this. So if you're here, that is a miracle. We're glad you're here. So text the word Canary to 877-740-3226. If you just get a text from me before we go live, you can text that number back. It's very fun. I read them. I can't keep a conversation with you because it's very expensive. I'm going to read some of those here in a moment. But that concludes the track Feeding the Ducks, our favorite, most groovy, royalty-free stock music that comes with the streaming software. We're going to jump in. We're going to be taking callers today. Hopefully, it's always a hopefully, right? If you've been around for the past few episodes, God has delivered on some incredible opportunities to make a show, to make a great show, to explore reality, non-reality, the supernatural realities, all congealing into one human experience. Thankfully, arbitered under the sovereignty of God. So I see you in the chat. Who do we got in the chat? We got Nigel here. Jesus is the season is here. Caretaker Dan, what's up? KHP. Rachel's here. One Lousy Petunia is over on X. Thank you for the repost on X. Mark, Sir Ike's here. Love Soul. Okay, here we go. Let's go ahead and do this. We're going to start the show. We're going to jump into it. Remember, folks, this is a call-in show. You'll see down there in the description, wherever you are seeing this, the call-in link. Click on that or copy and paste it into a browser. It'll ask you just a couple questions. You put in your name, give it permission to have your camera or your mic, whatever you want, and then it'll put you into the back room. You can hang out there, and I'll bring you up on stage when it's time. But let's go ahead. I'm going to go like this. We're going to play the intro music so Gonzo knows to start the podcast. So we're going to do it all over again. Here we go. 3, 2, 1.
Called it. We got a caller. We got a caller on the line here.
We've done it. What's going on, everybody? You're listening to Canary Cry Clubhouse, the opportunity for the Canary Cry Canarium to take a second, take a breath, take our eyes off of the brainwashing headlines in the media, take our eyes off the endlessly scrolling feed of mind control on whatever social media happens to take your attention at every single moment that you have. Your mind has a moment to wander or perhaps process the horrors of the world in the background. We got to fill that time, fill that space with mostly social media, increasingly AI slop, mostly sort of rage and things to be upset about. I was thinking about, I have a bad habit. I'm going to be vulnerable and transparent because I have recently been convicted, but not, I have been feeling convicted of the Holy Spirit, okay? Not convicted of some sort of crime. Feeling convicted by the Holy Spirit because I have a bad habit. I think it's a bad habit that I'm going to assume many, if not most of you have, which is when I wake up in the morning, which is a difficult thing to do, and I'm very slowly and groggily going through the process of drinking my Cage Rattler coffee. Go to cagerattlercoffee.com, support the show, get the best coffee in the world. Using the restroom, going through my very long dental hygiene plan. Now you got the brushing, you got the flossing, you got the water pick. Very good. Thanks, everybody. I'll talk about my dental appointment later. There's going to be some very deep and transcendent spiritual lessons to be had, I'm sure. But as I'm doing this, using the restroom, etc., the first thing that I fill my brain with mostly is Twitter. And I know this is bad as I'm doing it, like any sin. Look, I'm not going to say going on Twitter is a sin, but for all intents and purposes, it seems to be a sort of sinful behavior for me. And what I mean is not that it's written in the 10 Commandments or whatever, that the Bible says don't go on Twitter first thing in the morning. But like all sin, it starts out not a big deal, then it increases, it becomes a habit, then it becomes character, it has a grip on me. Starting the day without going on Twitter, it's just sort of it doesn't even occur to me not to do that until it's too late. And again, hopefully, if there's any new Christians or non-Christians, maybe this might be helpful for sort of understanding a little bit more of the Christian perspective. When I say sin, it's not necessarily that God is mad at me or going to send me to hell for going on Twitter first thing in the morning, but sin is missing the mark of how we know that we should be. I know that I shouldn't be going on Twitter and filling my brain with the rage and the mind control and this kind of stuff. I know I shouldn't. I know it's bad for me. I know that it's a slippery slope, and I know that it has a hold. That's the scary thing. For anybody who's gone through this sort of thing in their life, and it could be something as, kind of not a big deal as Twitter or video games or something, but the same concepts for really any addiction. You don't become addicted to alcohol the first time somebody hands you a beer. You don't become addicted to, well, depending on the drug, you don't generally become addicted the first time you say, okay, I guess I'll try it because you're in this social situation or maybe you're in pain, something like that. It starts, more or less harmless. And because it is harmless that first time, that second time, that third time, it could take years, but eventually something can become a habit, whether it's, having a couple drinks every day or more than a couple drinks every day. Or, maybe it went from using drugs at raves to using it at the weekend at the bar every weekend to suddenly this is, again, it can turn into this everyday habit. And it doesn't need to be every day for it to make something particularly harmful, but you get the point. It just kind of builds. It happens with even eating, the sugar. Sugar is a great example. I always thought it was funny when mostly older women, when I was young, women my mother's age, they're very sensitive about like not eating sugar, even like not eating a little hard candy at the doctor's office, or, oh no, I can't have that donut at church on Sunday because it'll ruin my figure or something like that. And you even know right off the bat, like, it's okay, you can have a little like you can have a candy, it's not gonna ruin your womanly figure to have a little candy. But there's some wisdom in that. I'm not saying that every single woman when I was growing up who displayed that behavior. I think also that could have been a symptom of maybe some harmful things in their life. But there is some wisdom in that. Making that choice that choice becomes habit, habit becomes, lifestyle, lifestyle becomes character, that sort of thing. And so for me, there's no immediate problem. going on Twitter first thing in the morning. In fact, it was so easy because it's my job. This is part of what I got to do in order to do my job is kind of, unfortunately, have to keep sort of like a hyper vigilant uh, attention on the sort of current events of the day. And, I take some days off here and there, but even when I do take those days off, you can often be a few steps behind in the development of a story just by, anyways, I'm not trying to make a point about that, but so it doesn't seem like a big deal. But lately I'm just like, oh, this is just who I am now. I'm becoming the guy who this instant he wakes up, opens up Twitter, scrolls through first, and I can see the pattern. I know how the algos are working. They're very good. And remember, anything you see online that's sort of algorithmically mediated, it is explicitly narrative crafting, mind control, social engineering. There is no timeline. There is no algorithm. There is no For You page. There is no Facebook wall, nothing. There is nothing in that genre of internet content that isn't explicitly dialed in to control your behavior. And I know this, but it starts out with some maybe some updates on stuff it knows you've been following. So you're like instantly, getting that news, getting that update, getting that knowledge, getting that thing, and it's lighting you up. But then it moves into presenting more inflammatory stuff and more angry posts and more sensational, not really that important, but whatever videos from years ago about someone being awful and everybody gets to pile on or something. And then from there it goes into just pure slop, just pure, it knows you're locked in. That's when the real sort of mind control starts. And it doesn't take too long to go through that process, that hooking process, and then that sort of zombie process it can put you in. I think it could take as little as like 5 or 10 minutes. You know how it is. You get on whatever, Instagram, Twitter. I mean, 5 or 10 minutes, that's the blink of an eye. That's the time is just gone once you're kind of in there. And it's all sort of part of the same thing. And so I am being vulnerable and transparent about this because every time, and I'll say this, thank God I have this moment of clarity after, about 45 minutes of going through my process while also, scrolling Twitter or whatever. You have this moment of clarity. You can talk to any addict, any addict will tell you about the moment of clarity. And I go, oh my gosh, now I've just started my day. I've just programmed my brain. I've just pulled the ripcord to get my day started. And my brain is now locked in to whatever this mindset, whatever this, what you do in the morning is extremely important. So if you're locking in on the sort of social engineering mind control first thing in the morning, goodness gracious, that's the day. That sets the whole day. And so if I'm feeling myself being anxious, if I'm feeling myself feeling low, if I go through the day and I'm just like things are off, I'm unsatisfied, I'm worried about the world, I'm unable to focus on the things that I need to do, all this kind of stuff, which is basically a daily occurrence. I think it's a daily occurrence for all of us. I don't think I'm, saying something surprising to anybody here. But when we have those days that are just full you feel out of control, like your emotions kind of can feel out of control. I'd like to think that I have like a pretty good grasp on controlling my mindset, controlling my thoughts, controlling my feelings. I have this phrase with my friends and some people in my life where, I'll say like, I'm not anxious, but I can feel the place where anxiety would be. It's like I'm not like locked into it and I don't want to be there, and I can kind of stand away from it, but it's like anxiety standing in the corner of the room, basically, you know? And I mean, thank God I'm able to do that because there's so many of us. And of course, even the best of us sometimes are unable to have that sort of awareness. Um, but, there's so many that have a really hard time doing that instead of, not to get into some like, I don't know, not trying to get too woo woo here, but if we're not careful, it goes from, sort of anxiety is sort of in the room with me, but I'm kind of just not locking in with it, not engaging with it, or even worse, not framing it as anxiety is in the room with us, but that anxiety is in me, or I am in anxiety. Anxiety is the room. These are the kind of things. And when anxiety is the room that you're in instead of just in the room with you, this is where they want you. This is where they got you. This is when you are just full on survival mode, out of control of your inner situation. And there's a lot of things that play into this, there's a lot to that, could have to do with your health, your exercise, your activities, the chemicals in your body, be they pharmaceutical drugs or just seed oils or just whatever, has to do with your diet, has to do with all these sorts of things. And as someone who has, again, thankfully, been sort of aware of how these different little pieces of life, diet, exercise, chemicals, media diet, things like that, specifically how they affect me, I still kind of will get into the mode of like, oh, if I just change this one thing, then I'll be good, right? If I just change my diet, if I just change my exercise, if I just change my this, if I just change my that, then that'll fix it. Then I'll be where I need to be. And a lot of you are this way too. I know that, I thank God every day that it's actually a good thing that our Twitter followers, our followers on social media, the amount of engagement or followers that we have on those platforms is just like so disproportionate to the amount of people who actually listen or watch the show on all the various platforms. It's significantly more real people. And that's part of the fun of doing long form, because views on long form content like this, like that's a real person, right? That's not just scrolling. That's somebody who sat down. And so anyways, we're very, as frustrating as it can be for us, Gons and I, to not have like the biggest X following or the social media or really any competency at it at all, although Gons is much better at that than I am. I'm actually proud of our people who continuously lock into what we're trying to do here with the mission, but just aren't even present on social media. I am also proud of our people who are on social media, who are following, because I see you and I see the way you're fighting the same battle that I'm fighting, which makes me feel less alone. But I also can witness how differently our people operate and are present rather on those platforms. So I'd much rather have a sort of Gideon's army experience on social media. But the fun part, quote unquote, fun part, is that nowadays your followers, your whatever, who you follow, the whole on purpose aspects of social media, you try to sort of control your own experience. You try to control your timeline. You try to control who you see and who sees you. It's funny now because they give us like the buttons. It's like a baby. It's like a baby in like a baby, what are those things called where the baby sits in it and they can kind of bounce and there's like toys all around, or maybe there's like a fake piano or like a rattler hanging or something like that. Or like, in The Simpsons, the opening of Simpsons when uh, the adult, I don't know who the adult is, maybe it's Marge is driving the car, and the baby in the passenger seat has a fake steering wheel and a fake, controls to the car. That's kind of how social media is for us right now, is they give us these fake controls. Who do you follow? Who do you block? Who do you, retweet? Who do you heart? Whatever. And the idea is we're told that the way that we touch these controls actually affect what we see. That's a great way for them to put the responsibility onto us of the experience that we're having, right? If we're told that we can control our own algorithm, we can steer our own car, we can follow and like and retweet in order to affect these algorithms, that any bad experience that we're having or any failure that we experience is on us. When the reality is, our fake controls have literally almost nothing to do with our own experience on these platforms. It's completely controlled. We know this. I've said it. I get it. Everybody gets it. But even I am not behaving as if I know that's true. I don't know if I'm on it any less because I know this. And I think we all know this. But the fact is that the algorithms that are completely out of our control, they know what we want more than we do. We actually know this. We secretly enjoy this. And that's why it's so irresistible. Now, I'm not saying everybody should get off Twitter, everybody should get off social media. That's not what I'm saying. That's like asking somebody to not have a phone, which if you don't have a phone, good on you. You're not listening to this probably. That's great. However, being a human in this beast system that we're in now, you're gonna have an account here, you're gonna have an account there, you're gonna be sitting in the waiting room at the dentist office, you're gonna pop open Twitter, total grace for these things. But that makes it even more important that we take the control that we possibly can, like not opening it up first thing in the morning and spending our first 45 minutes of the day in the sort of rage bait hellhole. That we have this, again, I am under the illusion, I am under the impression, could be false, might be not false, I don't know, that for me, it's actually beneficial to be sort of locked in like this. I have a good excuse is what I'll say. It's an excuse, and that's what it is. I'm not even gonna elevate that to the position of explanation. It is an excuse. So anyways, that's something that has just been it's probably a thought I've had every single morning for maybe the past 3 months. It's just sort of part of my daily routine, wake up, make some Cage Rattler coffee, go to cagerattlercoffee.com, brush my teeth, floss my teeth, do the water pick, take care of business in the bathroom, all while having the screen in my hand. Just scrolling, just soaking it in, baby. I think part of it too is because I'm not a morning person. But mornings are very difficult for me. It's hard to wake up. It's hard to get going. It actually gets me going. Like it has a caffeine type effect because I'm just like zapping my brain first thing in the morning for 45 minutes, like, Clockwork Orange. I'm just like prying my eyes open. Doesn't matter. I'm doing other stuff, but the phone's also right here while I'm doing it. And it's just like, oh, now I'm awake. Okay, I'm engaged. The rage is going. The anxiety is moving. The chemicals, the cortisol's coursing, baby. Let's go. And then, like any addiction, like any substance or activity that floods the brain unnaturally with hormones and chemicals to get us where we want to go, it takes about 10 hours to come down. The come down is quite hard, which is why you got to keep popping in, right? It's why do the 45 minutes. We're like, oh my gosh, I gotta start my day. Get out of here, Twitter. And then I'll go and I'll do some things and I'll start setting up the show or whatever. And then my body, those chemicals drain, the feelings fade. I'll start to get distracted and I go, okay, let me get some more Twitter. And I'll open it up and scroll. I'm like, I'm doing this for work, okay? I'll be like getting the show ready to go. I'm on the line with Guns. We're like typing out our documents. We're finding the sources. I'll be like, okay, let me look at Twitter for a little bit, again, under this excuse that it's like, I don't know, it is part of the job, I guess, but it's also giving me that hit one more time. So that's a problem. That's a problem for me. And part of me saying this on the show is the hopes that not just secretly having this thought in my personal life every morning, which obviously has not been enough for me to sort of make a change, but saying it out loud, eventually thousands of people will hear me say this. And there's some sort of, I guess, I hope people will pray for me because that's, of course, very important. But I'm hoping that it sort of activates some accountability in myself, give me the power to figure out what else to do. I'm not saying I can never go on X again, but it's really this morning routine is, I don't know. I'll say this. I don't know if it's the best way for me to be starting the day. Okay, well, this is a call-in show, people. You know this. I know this. The call-in link is in the description of this video. Look at the description, click on the link, copy paste it into your thing. It'll ask you a couple questions. You will go into the waiting room and you can watch and listen to the show in the waiting room. And then I'll bring you up when it's time. So we've got a couple people in the waiting room. I am Will on YouTube says, we do pray for you guys. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. I really do appreciate that. I did a little chuckle because one lousy petunia messaged and said, hey Siri, Jesus is Lord. Very funny, very good. Let's see here. Okay. All right, so that's what we're gonna do. We got some text messages that came in. I'm going to read those soon here after we take some callers. But if you haven't done it yet, do it now. You see it on the screen. Text the word Canary, Canary, to the number 877-740-3226. That'll sign you up for our text message alert system. Again, it's all part of this like algorithm thing where you probably, a small percentage of people get the notifications when we go live. And those are the people who are like pretty locked in, right? Those are the people who show up. They get the notifications. They did purposefully turn notifications on, which helps sometimes. It's the first step towards getting notifications. But chances are you probably don't get notifications for this. And so joining this text message alert system is a way to step outside of the control of those algorithms, outside of relying on the social media, the video platforms to tell you it's happening, to participate live, especially for this show, because, it's a call-in show. The best part is calling in. And I recommend you do that. And once you do, you can send text messages to this number, and I see them all. I see most of them, and I read them on the show here. Just know I can't text you back. Okay, it's expensive for us to text with this service. I can't do it. It's too expensive. All right. Well, we got some callers sitting in the waiting room. We're going to say hi to the first one. This young man usually calls in at the end of the show. And look, now he's number one on the list. So we're going to say hello to Sir Darren, Night of the Hungry Panda. What's up, buddy? You are on the air.
Hi, Basil.
How are you?
I'm doing great.
Good. I'm glad to hear it. Oh, just because I didn't mention it before, I keep meaning to put a timer on the screen, but it's harder than it sounds, but I will just randomly be running a 10-minute timer just so we can keep track. Okay.
It's funny you're talking about the subject matter today, about your battle with social media. It's interesting. I was talking to someone about this the other day too, and how I think we were at a very crucial point where we need to start realizing what is taking place, because I think I don't know if I said it on one of the call-ins or anything before, but I know I've sort of posted about it. But this idea that, you know, we know that like AI is taking over things, and that one of the types of AI is agentive AI, where basically it does things on your behalf. And so I was saying how, at some point it's going to be where I'll be following like Basil's agentive AI account. And if Basil's agentive AI account thinks my content is good enough, then you, Basil, will be recommended to actually follow my account. And I'll be super excited because I'll be like, oh my gosh, Basil, the person, followed my account.
Right. Yeah.
Like, that's probably going to become a thing potentially. And then another thing is that just like how we're doing a lot of generative AI stuff, content right now, like most of the content on X or anything, a whole lot of it is just generative. Even probably the posts are written with AI
Totally.
a lot of times. What I think is going to happen is once the AI sort of figures us out well enough, we basically, just like the agentive AI, can just sort of set it and forget it. And it's just going to go and it's going to learn what do people want to see. And it's basically going to make posts. It's going to make content. It's all going to be AI built. And then everything we look at on these social platforms is probably not even going to be people. It's just going to be AI. And it's going to suck us in, to a degree that we can't even fathom probably at this moment.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And like you say, it's basically already happening. And, this is something to remember. And, it's hard to really comprehend in the moment. But like right now, most of what you see on your timeline is going to be in some way AI generated. And that's not just posts, but replies, likes, all these things at this point are basically not fake individually, but the sentiment is fake. The sentiment, like, not that 100 people didn't like a post, but that maybe 100 real people liked a post, but 900 other likes on that post are AI, are part of the thing. So, it may have gotten 100 likes and 100 real person likes. A different post may have gotten 200 real person likes, but only got 100 AI likes. So that first post, which less humans actually care about, gets launched into the algorithm, and that's what you get. Not only that, you see that and you go, wow, a lot of people like this, or a lot of people are responding. It's basically all fake already. Which is part of the hard part of being so stuck in checking it all the time. But the reality is, maybe I'm coming at it from a wrong place, and maybe you can tell me this, but like, because of, I don't know, my job, maybe because of my history, when I am on social media, a lot of what I'm doing is like, okay, what's actually going on in the world? What's important to the culture? What's, it's kind of useful for me, or at least that's what I tell myself. But the reality is I'm probably just as locked in against my will as anyone else. Again, just the simple chemical reaction of being there is probably the majority of what I get out of it, just like anything else. So I'm probably fooling myself thinking that I'm on there for a good reason. No, but you're right with the agentic AI. In a way, the algorithm setup is basically already agentic AI. And for those who don't know, agentic AI is more or less the concept that you have almost like an AI who can use other AIs to get stuff done, or an AI that is sort of a representative. I don't want to say a personality necessarily, but in a way, your algorithm sort of is your proxy. It's a digital proxy that's been created for you. Now, an agentic system where instead of all of us having an account on social media and navigating it ourselves, we're so close, and there's already some like little experimental social medias that are doing this, is you would start your account, but your account is sort of this autonomous account who will go into the social media for you, interact based on what it knows about you, and then bring back only the sort of the best things that it thinks that you'll actually like. Then you respond, you say yes, good job, no, blah, and it learns more about you. It's like the digital clone system that we've been talking about since 2012, just cranked up to 11.
Well, and that's why I'm saying at some point I feel like AI is going to figure out where basically posts could just turn into flashing colors, and you'll be sitting there staring at your phone for hours on end. Like,
Totally.
I'm not even joking. Like, it will be like, like you were saying, Clockwork Orange. Like, you'll just be staring at the colors flashing, and you'll be like, oh, that feels really nice. I like that. I enjoy this. And hours will pass by because you just, I don't know, like, it's going to try to like get into your brain. I mean, I guess if Elon gets his way, he'll just put the brain chip in us, and then it will be 24/7. They won't even need to be like ads the way we see ads today. Like I know there's a video on YouTube of people like doing the sort of like AG reality where everything's an ad and popping up in front of your face.
Mm-hmm.
But that's like, again, that is so low tech for what would actually get people to do things compared to the true sort of, like Brave New World, like Soma kind of idea,
Right.
where it's like you just like, there are ways to psychologically, manipulate people, and that's more important than actually just putting a billboard in front of their face 24/7, because that would probably drive everybody nuts and they would want to get off.
Yeah. Well, and having an agentic AI, having a representative of you existing on your behalf in the digital world is sort of even better because it can sort of filter out all the things that you would ignore in the first place and just really not to mention that the idea would be the reason you would do this is so that you would put your trust into your proxy, basically. So whatever your proxy brings to you, the idea is, oh, it's already filtered out all the slop. Oh, it's already filtered out all the content I don't like. It's already filtered out all the hate or whatever you want to filter out, and it brings me only the best stuff. It's like, okay, so you're basically taking the fentanyl of social media instead of the like poppies of social media before. You're getting this like hyper distilled version that you allegedly are supposed to.
Well, it's like now their Facebook is like summarizing comments. YouTube is already summarizing videos now. Certain videos you can get the summary of what the video is about, and they'll jump to certain portions where you're like, oh, at this time stamped is what they talked about.
Oh, that's
and yeah, so it's kind of like, it's like we're just glossing over everything. We don't really care what the content is anymore or the context. It's more just get whatever's sort of getting fed to us. And so that's why it's
sorry to interrupt. But the hope is if I'm trying to be optimistic, this actually presents an opportunity to sort of back out, at these transition moments, kind of like we've seen transitions in culture recently. At every one of these big transitions, it's like an opportunity to say no and pull out, and not take that next step. Much like, for addicts out there. We can all kind of we know the path of starting out as not a big deal, then maybe getting into a habit or it's less of a deal. But then there's like that moment when you took it to the next level, or that moment when you realized that it had gotten a little out of control. And it's like these little moments, it's an opportunity to back out. Kind of like the UK and the digital ID right now. They are at the moment where if they don't come together and all back out at the same time, this is not going to be a fun time for them.
That's actually, the fact that you said that was the other thing that I actually had wanted to call in about, was that the digital ID, where, because I'm sort of like, in my brain, I am wrestling with that question of, so for one thing, I'll ask you about this because you've brought it up before, I think, where you brought up the real ID. And I think that you have said sort of like you don't use the real ID, like you kind of use the things to get around it and so forth. And I know for myself, where I'm located, we were just kind of like, no, you have to get the real ID. And on my perspective, it was a little like, well, so I had to show them a piece of mail. I had to take a photo like I do for a driver's license and some other things. And then people might have more information. But I was kind of like, where is sort of the divergence of where people are like, this is the worst thing ever, right? Versus just being hyperbolic about something that, like, we can't, necessarily not have trains, planes, and automobiles.
So for the real ID, that's so far nowhere near like the digital ID in the UK, which I think we're watching an interesting experiment in the West right now. Is there's two, I think we're literally watching an experiment where in UK they're just going, here it is, full digital ID. If you want to work, you need the ID. And they say, don't worry, you can still buy food, you can still get your pension, you can still get social services. It's just if you want to work, which of course is great. They're punishing the actual working class while letting the sort of, socially reliant class, of which we know there are many now in the UK, slide under the radar. So the only people getting the real ID in the UK are gonna be working class Britons. It's supposed to be, the solution to immigration. However, what they're saying right now is that you can't get your all you can't do is work without the thing. You can still get your social welfare, everything like that. Well, we know, of course, the whole point is to, at least the whole point that their Hegelian dialectic, the whole reason they're saying they need it is so they can make it harder for illegal immigrants to be in the UK. Well, right now, it only makes it harder for working class. But it's just the next step. If they don't make it required to have the digital ID to get social services or whatever, then it is explicitly helping the immigrants in the country. So we know we know just the way it works. For a fact, they're going to lock you out of everything if you don't have the digital ID. In Britain, they're coming out basically saying it, hard rule, get it now. You have no choice. Well, in the US, they're rolling it out very slowly, state by state. The digital ID the real ID in America is very much a slippery slope situation. And the first slippery slope of it is that it's federally registered. It's a federal ID. It's interstate ID. Constitutionally, your state is the one who has the responsibility to, make you an ID, a state ID, things like this. While the real ID still is a marker on your state ID, it connects it to sort of the federal system. So right now, without a real ID, really the worst part about it is that you either have to bring a passport to fly, or you have to um, basically just be punished at the airport. I can't remember if I told this story or not, but I was getting on a plane recently, don't have the real ID. Honestly, didn't really even know about it like that much. It was kind of super duper early. And I'm like, oh, I don't have the real ID. They go, okay. They hand me a little piece of paper that says, like, get your ID or else. And they say, go stand over there. And I go stand over to the side for about 10 minutes. And then a gal comes over and she goes, okay, well, we gotta wand you, we gotta pat you down, we gotta go through your suitcase. We open up the suitcase and I go, what is this because I didn't have the real ID? They go, yeah, that's interesting. How does that help? Is this basically, I just straight up asked her, like, is this basically just like a punishment for not having the real ID? And she looks at me and she just kind of goes, yeah, it's just, yeah. I'm like, okay, all right, I see. I don't have the real ID, so I'm more apt to be sneaking things in my luggage or something. I don't know. It didn't make any sense. But she was just kind of straight up like, yeah, it's just kind of a punishment. We need to like make you wait longer. So right now, without the real ID, it's basically you just got to wait longer. And so, sorry, I got off track there. But the two ways that experiment play out in the West is the hard stop, mandatory, hardcore version in the UK, and the slow boiling pot in the US. And so, at least for the US, we have kind of more opportunities to say no. But on the other hand, it's a little bit more dangerous in the US because the UK is so drastic. It's such a big change all at once that it's the obvious time to act. It's the obvious time to push back. It's the do or die moment, which is why they're, have like 3 million, it's like 5% of the whole country has signed on to this petition, and it just keeps growing. Whereas in the US, most people don't even know. They don't even know that a real ID is different from a regular ID. They just kind of check the box and then they get it at the thing, So on one hand, it's more drastic and crazy to watch the UK go through it. On the other hand, the US version, I think, is a little bit more subtle and devious in that people will get like halfway into the process, and by that time, it's too late to turn back. They already are in the system. They already have consented. They have no choice to go forward. And, you look at it in the context of like, of COVID, of vaccination identification, stuff like this. There just was a time where you just had to say no. And luckily, I mean, for me, I didn't have an employer. I'm not a doctor. I didn't have something like that to put me in like the hardest situation. But, it was not nothing. You couldn't travel. You couldn't do lots of things without it. And luckily, COVID was sort of inherently a transient period in history, although at the time we thought maybe it was never going to end. But with the real idea, there's sort of no like limit on how long they can stretch this play out.
I guess what I'm just trying to get at too is that I feel like what I was trying to do is draw the sort of comparison with we know things like social media are manipulating us.
Yeah.
And yet we're still kind of partaking in them.
Mm-hmm.
And even things like the real ID system, we know it's not great. It has a lot of downfalls to it. And so something like the digital ID, like that's like going bonkers crazy, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess what I was just wondering is, when I sort of meant like, what's the difference between the hyperbolic of like, we are going to just do none of it, we're going to like march in the streets, as opposed to, like we can still, like in this country, petition our government, and I don't know if anybody is, maybe I need to look into this, but see, like, is anybody working against the real ID and trying to just get rid of that system?
Oh yeah,
because
there's a lot. Yeah,
because it's like, it's one thing for us to sort of, like when the cop pulls you over and to fight the cop and say, no, I don't want to do this. And then it escalates and then he shoots you, right?
Mhm.
Versus you take the ticket and then you go to court and then you try to fight it out in court.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering, like, with this ID stuff, I'm wondering what should be our line of take it to the streets versus take it to the courtroom.
Yeah.
Because if Britain is saying you have to get this to work, right, then you're going to have to make a choice, obviously, of I either go keep working or I just stop working, right?
Mhm.
And then like sign the petitions and things and make that your job from now on.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, in a sense, that is the case. In the U.S., there's actually quite a broad movement. There's lots of states pushing back. I forget the gal's name, but shoot, what was her name? There's a lot of very active legal and sort of social pushback against the Real ID right now, which I think is interesting because we actually don't see a lot of it. You kind of have to look for it. Um, for the sort of, I don't know, social media presentation, that the way we all get our information about these things. If somebody remembers the really popular gal recently who came out about the missing $20 trillion, etc., she talked about the underground cities and the dumbs and things like that. She really blew up recently. I can't remember her name, but she's been very effective. And, that's the thing. Like, again, there was very similar. It was a very similar thing with the Vax ID. There came a point when people did have to say, okay, I'm going to lose my job. Okay, I got to find a new way to do it. And what I'm heartened to see is now, 5 years later, there's actually lots of stuff about people getting, you know, some people have gotten their jobs back after refusing the vax. A lot of people are getting the opportunity to bring their employers, bring their countries to court. Things are getting set right at a very slow and quiet scale, but it is happening. And it's one of those things, it's not going to be fun, but in the end, we got to trust that God's sovereignty rests over everything. And, if it is just kind of the end of our opportunity to participate in polite society, that's just going to have to be a decision we might have to make, and that's kind of why we've said in the past, you got to practice saying no. You got to practice saying no to the smaller things, the littler things, the slippery slope things, because by the time a no really could have some serious consequences, if it's the first time you're saying no, it's going to be significantly harder to do so. But like I said, there is a lot of legal action, organizing action, stuff like this to push back, even at the state level with various states. I don't really know what getting involved, or even if getting involved in that is something, I don't know, available. But just know, like COVID, their most powerful weapon during COVID for the IDs and everything was to make you think that you were the only one. You're the only one pushing back. You're the only one saying no. You're being antisocial. It's a small minority of anti-social malcontents who are saying no to what's going to save us all. And that was the trick. And it turns out that it was a majority. You were not the only one. Everybody was just scared to say it out loud. Everybody was scared to out themselves. And I think this will be a very similar situation. But hopefully we can bring the new knowledge, that we're not alone or something, or that, it is actually possible to stop this thing. Because I'll tell you, we even didn't really think it was going to be possible to stop the vax things. But between sort of social commentary, social movements, and good people in positions of authority or legal knowledge, so far it got pushed off. Sir Darren, as usual,
So
I have pushed our 10 minutes out, but
Yeah, I need to
I'm gonna
jump
give
off.
you the last word. So
Well,
you
the
leave
last word
whatever
I
you
just
want.
want to leave with is, well, maybe the whole point was for us to push back in the first place.
Totally.
Just think about that.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good point. We always have to keep that in mind. And the way we push back too. There's a certain way they want you to push back versus maybe a more effective way to push back. Thank you, Sir Darren. Buddy, it's
Thank
always
you.
great talking to you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. There we go. I'm sorry. I was trying to press the button, but I missed it. Okay. Wonderful. I had there was something else. I forget. Oh, speaking of the airport and everything, just the announcement. I'm going to be traveling here for a few shows. As usual, I'm going to be trying to call in while on the road, but it is my birthday month and some time to spend with the family. But hopefully I'll be able to call in for more shows than not here in the next week or two. All right, next up on the list, Psalm 40 is on the chat here. Look at us go. Speaking of which, oh goodness gracious. Okay, my apologies to all the rest of the callers. I do need to keep the 10-minute timer locked in. So, all right, Psalm 40, how you doing, buddy? You're on the air.
Hey Baz, what's up?
Doing
Let's not waste any time. Jump right into it.
okay.
So I I've been going through Daniel, the book of Daniel recently, and it is so like apropos and like helpful, relatable for all of this stuff. Like so the whole story of Israel, they're being led into captivity into a hostile foreign nation that is, besides the fact that this other nation hates them, like they have nothing in common with them. Like the entire culture and the interests and the way of life is just completely different. And before Israel actually went in the book of Jeremiah, there's that passage that everybody knows, like I have plans to prosper you, good plans for you. God said that to Jeremiah as God is saying, Israel's going to go into captivity, but
Mhm.
you're not. I have good plans for you. So anyway, when it comes to pushing back, I think a lot of people are still like forgetting maybe that we don't wrestle against flesh and blood. Like we don't have to go protest or sign petitions to push back. That's not pushing back. Like, okay, in the book of Daniel, when they're in Babylon. The doctor aware of the. I'm sorry, 1 second.
No worries. Is that
The first little speed bump was the vegetables, the food. Okay, we're in this hostile environment, and they want me to eat a certain kind of food, and I'm just not going to do it. I'm going to eat what I know I can eat, and God will sustain me.
right?
And then, or no, I will not bow to your idols, and God will sustain me. And like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego said, even if he doesn't, I still won't bow. Like God is able to deliver me, and he will. But even if he doesn't, I'm still not going to bow.
Yeah.
So, there are other ways, more powerful and prominent ways to push back, you know.
Yeah, I mean, non-compliance is one thing that a lot of these organizers and legal experts and people say to push back on certain things like this, just simple non-compliance. But spiritual non-compliance is exactly what you're talking about. There is a spirit, a supernatural reality, principalities and powers, and physical or material non-compliance is one thing, but really the real power and what we're called for, what the entire Christian life is spiritual non-compliance to the ways and the powers of this world. I think that's a great point.
And also there is a physical, tangible. There's action in this too. Like faith without works is dead. Like we are not going to comply. But like with the food, like, you know, you don't partake in these wicked things, whatever it is, you know. But at the same time, you got to have faith in God and trust Him. But you don't, you know, we don't have to go physically like march. Or, I mean,
Right.
fellowship is good. Yeah, we should come together. But like, I don't know. Maybe I feel like a lot of people feel like they are hopeless or something. Like there is a lot of like hopelessness and defeat or something. Like I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and a big part of what you're talking about is the knowing, the true knowing that it is not by our strength, it is not by necessarily our power, our non-compliance, but that it is by His power, it is by His strength that anything gets done. And again, this is a benefit or a step up that believers have, you know, knowing that it is not necessarily by our power that these things get done. Because if you get locked in on, oh, it's up to us, it's our power, we can or can't do it, you know, that can become a very dejecting thing when we truly realize how little power we have, even compared to other human beings. But to be relying and truly resting in the peace of knowing that it's by His power, you know, things are truly done. I mean, that is a huge benefit. That's what wins the war right there.
we do have to know God to be able to do these things, and you can't know God unless you seek Him and pursue. You know, like my pastor was actually just kind of drawing this out that like if there's, I don't know, a comic book character or something that you think is cool and he's got all the cool powers, like you will want to know the whole lore. Like some people revel in the fact that they know like Luke Skywalker's life history, like, or even a loved one, or like a long lost father, maybe that you just become reacquainted with. Like there should be a fire in you to where you want to know everything there's to know about this person, where they've been and what they've done, and like what drive.
Oh, oh, we lost him for a second. Can't tell if that's just me. Is there Psalm 40? If you're out there, we lost you. He's not muted. Okay. Sounds like he was going into the, you know, the enemy camp there or something, into foreign territory. So he may have lost connection. But still very important. I mean, this is it, folks. What he's saying is the thing. You know, and this is part of this is also part of the deception I think we're seeing going on with a lot of believers or a lot of Christians, whether they be mature or new, and just kind of a lot of people too focused on the political part of it too, is really putting a lot of faith into, say, the Trump administration. Oh, they're going to do it. They're going to save us. I mean, you could get as sort of fringy or conspiratorial as Q or something like that and say, oh, the White Hats. The White Hats got it under control. Things like this. This is the danger across the board. All right, we will see if Sir Psalm 40 makes it back. But until then, we're going to bring up the next caller, and that is Toph. Producer Toph, what's up, buddy? You are on the air.
Hey there, Basil. Sorry, give me a second.
Okay. He's got to adjust. He's got to.
I did. Yeah, I did have to adjust. I just finished driving. Just shut my car off. A little bit of a afternoon commute.
Timing is
Heading
amazing.
home.
So what's on your mind today? Uh-oh. Did I lose you too? Oh, no.
Am I back?
Oh, there you are. You're back.
Okay, interesting. Okay, so StreamYard Is that what this is? Yeah, StreamYard quits or blocks the stream when I lock my phone.
Okay. Good to know.
Yeah, so now I know. Good to know. Yeah, I think maybe I didn't really have anything on my mind when I called in, but maybe I can pick up where Psalm 40 left off, where this is really a battle not against flesh and blood, but against powers, principalities, and it's a battle of the spirit, and specifically as Psalm 40 was saying, is that it means nothing if we don't know the Lord, if we don't spend time with Him, and it's something personally that I've kind of been maybe not struggling with, but I've been wanting to yearn Him, to yearn for the Lord. I've without getting into details, like I've been kind of living through like a bit of a desert period. I have been freed from Babylon. The Lord has saved me. He took me out of the life in Egypt that I was living, and I am saved. But and He has promised good things to me. But this the day to day, the struggle, in my personal scenario, it's in unstable living scenarios, and finding work and all of that. I'm really kind of relating to the Israelites in the desert. Like, okay, Moses, I know what we have to look forward to, but come on. I've kind of been.
Oh, we're losing you. He's turning into a robot. Let's see if it comes back.
No.
Okay, there you are.
How about now? Back. Okay, gotcha. But I've been wondering, as far as the Canary Crime Ministry goes, I mean, it's been, I found you all during COVID, like pretty early on during COVID. And lately, over the past year or two, I've seen a lot of internet influencers that did much more like podcast stuff. They've kind of been shifting towards news coverage, and I kind of wonder what the place for Canary Cry is these days. There's so much news analysis, and certainly to a certain extent, a lot of news analysis with a biblical framework. Some of it, many of it, is not as entertaining or as fun or as fruitful as Canary Cry. But I've kind of also been wondering, since you guys started doing the surveys, if there's a pivot that the Lord has for y'all in equipping believers to stay grounded in the Word, to stay grounded in the. What do you think about that?
Yeah, just so I understand the question, the idea is because of, yes, we've moved into this phase where, us starting in 2020 or even before that, News Talk in 2016 or before that 2012, we're into this totally different world in which the news analysis is basically more common than really any other type of long form content. And especially now, because of the sort of revival of the past couple of years, there's lots of Christian flavor to a lot of this news analysis. And what is, what does that mean for Canary Cry and this sort of new, this new world that we're in? Is that kind of the question?
Kind of, yeah, because y'all have been ahead of the curve for a long time. So, I mean, what's ahead of the curve right now is yet to be seen. I mean, it's all looking ahead. But what we know that we can look forward to is Christ, is the return of Christ. Whether we're in the little season or not, He is going to return. The way that it looks, I'm not 100% sure, but a lot of things have been confirmed from your research over the past 13 years or so. And so, just kind of like Psalm 40 was saying, there's a lot of hopelessness, not only in the greater world around us, but also in our individual lives.
Right. Totally. Yeah. No, I mean, again, that's it's kind of a broad thing, but that's also what we're feeling. I mean, yeah, we look around, we're asking ourselves the same question, as anybody who's been taking the surveys will know. We're asking ourselves the same question. It is interesting. It's a weird position for us to be in. It's just I just hope I can say this with as much humility as God can grant me, to have been right about everything for so long. And during those years, it was always kind of in the back of our minds, or explicit, of like, yeah, one of these days people are going to see, and then they're going to find the show, and then we're really going to hit our stride, and then that'll be the golden age of Canary Cry, when it all comes true, and then we can, whatever this sort of idea that we had in our heads about where we wanted sort of the show to go, or our career to go. And what we're finding is that it's kind of totally opposite, in that, yeah, the news analysis space is as packed as ever, and even now the Christian news analysis space is basically mainstream. Even the fringe, we used to describe Canary Cry as like the fringe of the fringe of the fringe. News analysis was sort of a fringe topic. Christian news analysis was another layer of fringe, and then biblically prophetic, spirit and supernatural Christians was even a smaller slice of that thing. And now, even in the biggest, most mainstream, you've got Tucker Carlson, infamous newsman, not only, bringing pastors and, Christian influencers or whoever onto his show, but also talking about the Antichrist and Nephilim. It's our weird little niche that we thought was the smallest slice of the population that we could possibly get. It is now blown up to the literal world's biggest topic of conversation, and against our sort of worldly ideas of what effect that would have on us. It's had, I wouldn't say the opposite. I wouldn't say that, we're sort of, I don't know, shrinking at a rate that is unsustainable. But it is bringing up really big questions. We've spent our entire career on the tip of the spear, being ahead of what's coming, and then it gets here. And we used to say, oh, geez, if we've been right about all this, I shudder to think what we're going to be right about next. But you're right. We really are in this moment of like, okay, God, what do you want? What do you want from us? On one hand, we don't want to abandon the news talk. We don't want to abandon, especially biblically prophetic or sort of biblically grounded understanding of current events. But it's clear that we've moved into a new world, and we're pretty sure that this new phase of humanity is going to require a new tip of the spear. When the shaft follows the tip, and there needs to be a new tip. When Tucker Carlson's talking about the Antichrist, and Peter Thiel and current events and technocracy, that's the shaft of the spear. Now the tip of the spear needs to be ahead of that, and and it may not be necessarily the topic of content or the topic of our ministry, but maybe the way that the ministry is done. So
Yeah.
I mean, we're really seeking the Lord on this, and of course, the surveys and stuff, we're really seeking the wisdom of the Canarians, and we don't know exactly what that looks like yet. But another thing we're bumping up against is just our ability as two guys to pull off whatever's next. These other big shows that are touching on Christian, biblically prophetic current news analysis, it is common now for one of those shows to have 10 people working there, to have producers and editors and researchers and booking agents, and we've moved. Part of this new world that we live in is those types of shows are now structured like a full-on production company, or and it's kind of the thing when it comes. And of course, with that, you need the money to keep that going, and with that brings the need for reliable advertisers and funding and things like this to pay those people. So, in a way, we're a little bit sitting here going, we kind of know what direction God wants us to go. I mean, this includes getting back into interviews and Canary Cry radio episodes, things like this. It's clear where God wants us to go. It's clear where the Canarians want to go. But what comes next is, how in the world do we pull that off while maintaining, the values and the structure that God wants us to maintain? I mean, here's the thing. Value for value, it's worked for two guys who started a podcast a long time ago to basically survive, basically feed their families, to commit our time and our hearts and our minds to this full time. But the value for value model, we obviously feel very strong about and are committed to. Part of me wonders sometimes, or even just in my conversations with God about what's going on, just like, all right, God, I mean, I don't know if it's gonna be done. You know how it's gonna be done. You can do it. I trust in you. We'll go wherever you want us to go. We'll do whatever you want us to do. And if value for value is not the way, if that's not how you want it, God, you got to tell us. Like, are we supposed to go hire people, like whatever? We could easily fill 3 full-time positions with the work that needs to be done or that we would want to get done. It's like, okay, are we supposed to hire people? How do we hire people? Are we supposed to find some other way to apply value for value? Are we supposed to get back into advertisements, or get into advertisements in the first place? How exactly do you want this done, Lord? And to be completely honest, we've been in this place for about maybe a year or two. We have not, the answer has not come rushing in a dream. And really right now, it's a lot of just moving forward in faith with what God has been doing for us, with us. What we've been shown in the light is the same in the dark. Just because the lights are off doesn't mean you don't stop moving forward. It's for the long answer to your question. We are wondering the same thing, and we are, part of me is sitting here thinking, well, all right, whatever shift God wants us to go in, there's going to be a producer who reaches out. There's going to be, who knows, someone with a bunch of money, who wants to get involved, or there's going to be some genius product in the supply drop that makes 1,000 people sign up, something like that. It's really, it's not, I mean, it's an uncomfortable place to be in life, and we've all been in this place in various times of our lives. But it's really an exciting opportunity for God to show up with the answer to this question and get all the glory for it, because we have it is not us. If we figure whatever happens next, it is purely due to God, and he gets all the glory, because we are, at least at this point, highly stumped. Highly stumped, except for the faith to just keep waking up, keep moving forward, keep pressing record, keep going live, and stay prayerful and expectant for whatever he has next for us.
I hope I'd like to encourage the listeners to obviously pray for each other, to pray for Basil and Gons and their families, that these things which Basil has said, supernatural resources appearing, for the right person to be at the right time, to be able to provide the right services to appear. Because you've been not only have you been connecting the dots, but you've been connecting the people for a long time, and you know the greats in the Bible, if you will, the Davids, the Moses, the Abraham, the the Paul. They were not without resources, resources that were supernaturally provided by the Lord. And yeah, I pray for these things to come about, because I do know that y'all have been at the tip of the spear. So now when the tip has become the shaft, what is the new tip? That's really a great way to put it. And I pray that people will continue to see value in what you do. I am a consistent supply dropper. You know, I haven't been off since I signed on, 3-4 years ago. And yeah, I'm praying for all those things for y'all.
Well, God bless you, man. Thank you so much. Thank you for the opportunity to kind of share this with the community and the rest of the Canarians. And thank you for your kind words. And of course, thank you for all your support over the years, man. Really appreciate it. Yeah. Yeah, Toph, you've been around for many years. And there's a list of names of people that we immediately recognize for being, just a consistent part of the community and the support structure. And you're one of them, Toph. So thank you so much, buddy.
Glory be to God. On to the next caller. Thanks for hanging out.
You bet. God bless. Woo, what's going on? Oh, it's going crazy. It's going crazy. Whoa. Sorry for those who are just listening. There we go. Come on. It's going crazy again. Okay, so we got what in the world? All right, Toph, I might need to kick you off or something, because I don't know what's going on. Sorry for those who are listening. Some glitch in the back end here. Got things going nuts. Yeah. God bless. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm so like Toph said, it was a perfect way to say it. For us to have gotten this far at all, that for us to be able to wake up and even do this one more episode is seriously, literally a miracle of God. Every ounce of value that keeps this show alive from the producers is an absolute testament to the mysterious sovereign power of God to make the foolish things of this world to be wise in the spirit, and vice versa. All right, next up we got Sir David G. Sir David G, you're on the air. What's up, buddy?
Hey, what's going on?
Not much, just cranking them out today. How you doing?
Doing well. How about yourself?
Good. What's on your mind?
Well, a lot. First, I wanted to talk about morning routine stuff,
Oh yeah.
because you a lot of times the stuff you talk about, I seem to be on like a parallel path, doing some of the similar things. So just making sure I wake up in the morning and do certain things um, before even touching a screen.
Yep.
Because man, it's if there was one thing I've been addicted to, I would say it's that. It's the constant need to have a screen, and I've really been working hard trying to get away from it. I don't have any social media at all anymore. So the closest I get to it would be YouTube.
Hey,
But
that's
another
pretty
thing,
impressive. You're heading in the right direction, bro.
it hasn't been easy. Another thing that I've been doing over the past, I don't know, 6 months or so, is I've been procuring ways of listening to music that I used to grow up with. So records, tapes, CDs. I have a couple of friends that I actually met, through it's a whole big long story about how I met these guys, because I'm so opposed to church. But I met them at a church, and now they got me back into listening to records and all this old music. So it's like, I'm able to rediscover this whole music scene that existed in the Christian realm when I wasn't a Christian. And so now it's like this whole new thing for me. And but the point of all that is that that's part of my routine in the morning when I get up early. And so instead of going to the phone, I need something to do to wake myself up. So I, like you, I go make my coffee, and then I go to these old analog devices. Well, CD player is digital, but it's not a screen, and it's
Cool.
not a Spotify playlist, right? Like I have to go physically interact with this mechanical thing in order to get it to do what I want to do. And it's helping with the screen stuff, right? Like not being so addicted to the screen, because I feel like that's part of the deception that we're all kind of stuck in, is like this fake reality. Because there's a big difference between what I hear about when I'm watching the screen and what I see when I'm actually out and about interacting with people.
Yeah.
And it's put me in a place to where I'm really questioning if I realize us interacting is real, but what I'm saying is the stories being told, the things being said, if it's not just, we see how AI is, your discussion with Darren there, Sir Darren, who's to say that the majority of these content creators out there, that who knows if they're AI or not? And I know
Right.
how that sounds, but we,
Or even
who
if just
knows?
what
So
they're saying is AI. I mean, even human beings, I'm
yeah,
watching
right,
like popular human beings, and because we're so dialed in and we know the structure of AI content, it's like, oh, you just had ChatGPT write this for you. Great.
exactly. So it all kind of folds into where I've been lately, because I know how it sounds when I say stuff like this, but I'm just so opposed to church. I grew up Mormon, and that left a bad taste in my mouth.
Mm-hmm.
For you and I could have a whole conversation, about that in and of itself,
Right.
but I'll leave that where it is. But the point is I really feel like it's being put on my heart to go actually out in the world and interact with people. Just like
Yeah.
stop living such a life online. And as much as I really dislike church, it's like I just feel like I'm getting pulled back there, but not for me. It's not about I need to go there to be taught or listen to someone else's interpretation of this, that, or the other, because we all have our own interpretations. There's so much fracture and disunity, in the church, the body today. However, even with that being the reality, I feel like I'm being drawn somewhere to form relationships and
Oh, yeah.
to serve and to be part of a community,
Yep.
because the more I rely on, and not to say that I'm going to stop listening to you guys or watching you guys, however, what I need personally to overcome my addictions, I have to get off this thing and go live in the world and serve that way, to be connected that way. Because the more I try to look for community online, the more I get stuck in the trap of the constant need for dopamine, and the list could go on.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, it's so true.
But that's kind of where I am.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I absolutely encourage people to do that. That's usually my response when the conversation becomes, about church, not liking church or whatever. And I totally understand. Like I said, I've worked in the church, been in the church my whole life, worked in the church for many, many years. I absolutely empathize, not even sympathize, like real empathy when it comes to the problems with the church. But like you said, it's so easy for us to be deceived that through the digital world, which is the enemy's counterfeit of the spiritual realm, it is a sort of man's creation in order to play God, become closer to God's, to create a reality around us, to divest ourselves from God's material reality into the digital world, which could consequently also have us divesting from the God's spiritual realm as well. I won't get into my rant about just how non-separated the spiritual world and the material world I think really is, but what is really separated is the digital world. We're in this, that's part of the conversation, is like, oh, the internet is real life now. The internet is really important. It has our banking, it has our what, it's the internet is not a fake place. It's a real place that's important to be in. We're saying that about this counterfeit reality that, again, go down the rabbit hole of cyberneticism and the internet and occult and all these things. We're living our daily lives as if the digital world is one with the material, but at the same time, we, because of that, so easily forget that the spiritual realm is more real and more important, of course, than the material realm. We're getting pulled over to this counterfeit side of it, where we really thrive and where we were originally, and where God is calling us back to, is this hybrid of the material and the spiritual, or the unity of the spiritual and the material, and that is done through fellowship with other believers, through interaction with real spirits, with like human beings who are in the image of God and who also exist in this combination of the material and the spiritual. Whereas getting sucked over to this digital side, we think we're interacting with real people. There's never a way to tell if we really are or not, but it's so disconnected from where we should be residing in our lives, that yes, it's obviously results in so many sort of apocalyptic situations, both in society and in our personal lives. And I think you're totally right. If we want to talk about what the new tip of the spear is, I mean, honestly, we've been saying it for a while, but I think it's been true for eternity, that really connecting with the other human beings, especially in fellowship with believers, where two or more are gathered, that is where God, this whole thing. And that can come in many forms. Church is one. It's sort of an easily accessible one to try to do that. Churches as institutions are flawed and people are flawed. But that's where we grow. That's where we're uncomfortable. That's where we learn the sort of ins and outs of what God is doing in other people's lives and how that interacts with what God is doing in our lives. And when those things come together, there can be wisdom and strength generated for not just the two parties, but the body as a whole. This whole thing, whoopsies. This whole thing. And of course, obviously, that's why we encourage meetups. That's why we want Canarians to get together, this sort of thing. But it's hard, and it's often, the truth is, not attractive. It's not attractive to me to go out and try to meet people and form lasting deep bonds, with which puts you at risk and vulnerability, and trust is an issue and all these things. It's an incredibly unattractive thing, if we're being honest about how we're set up today, to go out there and make connections with real humans. And it's that sort of discomfort with that I think is the signal that it's absolutely what God wants us to be doing. I mean, heck, if I knew how to sort of organize maybe some sort of in-person regular group fellowship or something for Canarians around the world, I mean, I think that's that could have some serious life-changing consequences in the right way, because like we were talking about with the digital ID earlier, again, the enemy is this way, principalities, powers, the governors of darkness. They want you to be separated. They want us to be separated from other humans in every possible way. And that's the grand lie of the digital world. It's Mark Zuckerberg saying, Facebook brings you together. Facebook connects you with people around the world, which is just the most blatant lie from the pit of hell. It does not connect anyone with anyone. It does quite the opposite. And another reason why we need to continuously pursue the way, God made us, to program us, to bring us together and to be amongst us when we're together. I think the struggle you describe is this. I mean, it is one that every individual here can attest to, but also, I mean, that it's just like this poignantly describing the nature, the fallen nature of what it's like to try to be a human in today's world.
Yeah, and the ability to connect with someone across the world or across the country. I mean, it sounds good, but I would say it's almost like you can turn it off and turn it on, whenever you want,
Yeah.
or I guess whenever it's convenient for both parties.
Or
However,
even one party, not even
there's
both.
no,
There's no
yeah,
accountability.
yeah,
Well,
there's
somebody
no
can just
real,
ghost.
yeah, exactly. There's no
Yeah.
real, like, I don't know if intimacy is the correct word, but there's no real work.
Yeah, you can boil it
And
down to reliance. Human beings
yeah,
were meant to rely on each other and together rely on God, right? And when it comes
right,
to,
because when the thing,
go ahead.
go ahead, sorry.
No,
I was
no.
going to say, when the thing goes sideways and all your relationships are all based in the virtual realm, the digital realm, you're going to, if you really have the fear in you, then you're going to possibly rely on the government or the beast system, or whatever it looks like.
Yep. Yeah.
You run the danger of heavily relying on that system to sustain you when things really get bad, because your whole life has been so virtual.
Yeah.
And it's not like, bro, I'm just now starting to wake up to this, and like to try to pull myself out of it. So it's not a condemnation or anything like that. I'm just kind of thinking out loud. So anyway,
Yeah.
that's about all I got, dude. I could keep going, but
No, you're
you know,
absolutely right, man. No, I think what you're saying, yeah, and I think this is very important, and it's a part of the fellowship thing. When one guy like you can share the struggle and situation that God has you in, and the sort of battles that you're fighting. I mean, it's funny because, again, we think our battles are just our own, but when you say them out loud and other people hear them, you realize, oh yeah, we are all in this together. It's a part of the nature of things. So we're all
yep.
with you, buddy. Really appreciate you being such a good part of the community, and
Well,
can't wait to talk to you next time.
sounds good.
God
God
bless.
bless.
There you go, folks. There you go. All right, let's see here. We're at about an hour, 40 minutes. Gonna need to get scooting here pretty soon, but we've got another caller in the chat. I always feel a little guilty. We had somebody who was waiting in the waiting room for quite some time. They just took off. I don't know if they're going to call back or not, but we do have another great caller, and that is Rod. Rod, what's up, buddy?
Best buddy Basil. How's it
How
going, bro?
Dude, it's better now that you're here. How you doing?
I'm doing well, man. I got the notification, and normally I'm traveling during the week, but I'm just sitting here in the studio, and it's always an honor and blessing to get to connect with you, man.
Amen, brother. For those who don't know, we're talking to Rod from Millennial Mustard Seed, one of our new best friends. So I'm glad you had some time. What's on your mind today?
You know, I took a sabbatical from the show for the month of September, which God kind of prepped me on for like 3 months. And what's interesting is like being in this zone of being in the spotlight, being in a zone of producing Christian content, right? And trying to have an answer in season and out of season. I didn't take a break for quite some time. And this sabbatical, or, whatever you want to call it, just stepping back a little bit, reevaluating, God really moved on my heart in some unique ways. like back to the basics, but also like everything I know now and like the whole world is just a lie. Like there's
Hmm.
just it's just compounding lie after lie and distractions. People, the whole system is set to steal that intimate moment that we get to have with the Lord, knowing we've been we're in him. He's in us. Like the scriptures are just so powerful and beautiful. So I was able to dive back into the word and not produce as much and work on other projects. My first song releases tomorrow, on like 25 platforms. Like God opened a door for me to start doing ministry music and to just do other things. But I really found it stepping back from the busyness and trying to answer the problems of the world. Man, I reflected and humbled myself, fell on my face, and God just kind of lifted me up in that kind of simple, still, small, secret place, Baz,
Mm.
where I just fell in love with the word again and just washed myself. I got caught in the rut of, trying to work in my lane and stick to my lane and trying to, you know what I mean? Step it
Yeah.
up and be available, be present, answer all the phone calls, all the prayer requests, and it exhausted me.
Yeah.
So I feel refreshed. I feel like I did the right thing. I'm thankful I listened to the Lord and stepped back, but it's kind of weird coming out of it, because I learned the balance is so important. And
Yeah.
that's what's on my mind. This is Rod's world right now. So,
Amen, man. That's great. Yeah. It can feel, taking that second. Now, stepping back, taking a second, that can feel like a lot of different things to a lot of different
yeah,
people. But it can be tough because, the question is, oh, if not that, then what? Then what am I doing? Then what?
exactly.
It can feel maybe like disobedience, or it can feel like, cowarding away or cowardice from what God's calling you to do. It can feel
Yeah,
like, I mean, for me, especially the Christian tradition that I grew up in,
yeah,
it's always a question. Not that it's like a very sort of serious condemnation or something, but it's always a question. If I stop doing what I feel God has for me to do, does that lift some sort of protection or calling or blessing or something like that? You can get into this very transactional
yeah,
sort of idea, especially for those who are commit themselves to some sort of serious ministry, whether it's whether it's a job, or whether it's volunteering at something, or whether it's running a Bible study or whatever. Yeah, you can kind
yeah.
of work your way, or minister your way into this like transactional understanding of what God wants you to do. It's a very difficult place, man.
Yeah. It's so well put on your end. Really, the transaction conversation, that is kind of the spirit of religion. That is kind of just like showing up, being a good little boy, buttoning down your shirt, right? And
Hmm.
just being present without your heart being involved. I started thinking about, how God wants this deep and intimate, the spirit inside of us to be just in love with him, in agreement with him, and to be, basking in his presence. And what, like, this is the first love. In the letters, Paul talks about, hey, come back to your first love. And it's so easy to get caught in the million messages and signals that are causing confusion and chaos. Like, like it's clear.
Hmm.
But the first love it's humbling because, yeah, you're right. I mean, it can be transactional when love is a relationship, it's a choice. It involves, allotting an intimate part of yourself to be one with the Father. And Rod learned it the hard way, as I say on my show. I'm not a good example. I haven't gotten everything right. I don't believe everything I've heard on my podcast. I've struggled with a lot of this kind of deep and difficult content. And, I was on the phone with a good friend of mine, Dr. Laura Sanger, yesterday. We just shared hearts for like almost an hour, and she was on a walk, and we got in the presence of the Lord, and we're just having this beautiful conversation. And I was kind of spilling my heart to her. Vulnerability is a weapon, by the way. Vulnerability is a weapon. The enemy does not account for us boasting in our weakness, that the glory and the power of God would be made best known, right? And so, Baz, there's this moment where I'm saying, I don't think I have what it takes. I'm like having this, like, I'm just stuff that I deal with behind the scenes.
Hmm.
And she reminded me of that. Like, when you're weak, then you're strong. Boast in God's power, boast in, and I'm like, yeah, like how it's so weird that like when you're in that place and you feel like the Lord's with you, you feel invincible, you feel the glory come down when you start to invite him in to the chambers of worship and you're in it, right? And then there's seasons that I go through. I'm not speaking for anybody else, but they feel like desert seasons, Baz. And it feels like I'm distant. And am I performing to try to get back there? And that's kind of what I got nipped in the butt with recently is like that transaction. That am I just in a template? Am I in a model of trying to produce something that's outside of the deeper things, you know? So I got
Mhm.
sidelined with it, man. The sabbatical was good for me, but it was scary, you know, coming into Baz, let me tell you this. Coming into the sabbatical, we had the highest subscribers and highest downloads I've ever had in 6 years.
Mhm.
And I literally walk away from it for a month. I put a couple like little 20-minute episodes that were recorded months prior out, but I really did take a step away. And the month of September was irate. It was stark raving mad. You guys remember that movie? I'm a millennial, right? So you're a elder millennial, Basil. Um, that movie from back in the day. And there's just so much that happened in that month, and I kind of got to reconnect with my peace. So that's what's going on in Rod's world. I'm sorry I missed like most of this. I don't know what the standard conversation's been on this Clubhouse so far, but hopefully that's just salt to somebody. That's encouragement. Maybe there's even if one person's out there and or they're just hearing me speak on this, you're not alone. Let's take that trip into the bedroom, close the door, and just get into his presence and say, God, you've seen it all, you know it all. You've seen the good, the bad, the ugly, the beautiful of my life. You've seen every mistake. You calculated for my idiocracy.
Right.
You've taken that into account, Lord, And this is beautiful about letting go. And shout out to Chuck from Fire Theft Radio. I haven't talked with him in a couple months, but he always says to me, we talk like 2 or 3 times a year on the phone, and he's like, do your best, let God do the rest. And there's something to that.
Yeah.
There really
Amen.
is something to that. And it's humbling and it's scary sometimes, I guess, to let go of our control factor and be like a little kid and just be like, my father's good. He's going to come through. He's faithful when I'm not faithful. Like, that's good news because Rod, like, I dropped the ball. Like, I'm not it, guys. But he's it. He's faithful. And this is where I'm at right now. Like, these are the reflections. I'm sorry if I'm moving really quickly. I'm just spilling my heart. I feel like time is short. I feel like we need that encouragement. We need vulnerability, transparency. And so I'll just kind of pass it back to you. Like, this is Rod, just an open vein, man. Everybody can see the pulse, right? And I think that's okay.
Yeah. Amen, man. No, I think I think I second everything you're saying. And I know, that is sort of the eternal struggle. That is what it is to
Yeah.
do your best to be a follower of Christ. And the fun part is what we think is our best is often sort of unnecessary.
Yes.
That's what grace is.
Yeah.
That's what makes it so sort of mysterious and a lifelong
Yes.
learning process to walk with Christ is if we could formulate it and follow the rules, quote unquote, by our own knowledge, by our own power, and usually, again, by just what we feel, even in this case, even what you're saying, we talk about how the Bible talks about how the heart is not a good guide. Your humanity is not the best guide for what's going on. And we can, like you said, get so wrapped up in what we think we know what God wants from us, and kind of lose sight of the fact that it's possible that those are just rules we're making up for ourselves. Those are just
Wow, that's
theology.
so good. That's
Yeah,
so
this
good.
is, and again, it just goes back to not by our power. We start thinking, well, if we just do the right thing, stay on the right path, do the right thing, then and that's I say this in the same show that I also said, we're just keep doing what God wanted us to do. We're just going to keep moving forward, and
Yeah.
it's somebody, a critic, could come in and call that hypocritical. I call it being a follower of Christ. That is what the process is, and that never ends. That is what life with Christ is
That's so true.
constantly learning, hopefully learning the easy way, or remembering, hopefully not learning the hard way. That it is, it's a lifelong process to align ourselves in the sort of graceful way that's available to us without that transactional thing. Rod, I'm so glad you called in, man. I know I missed a couple of calls from you. We got to get back. I'm glad to hear that you're easing back in. So we'll keep a lookout for that. But yeah, if there's any last words you want to leave the people with, I really appreciate you calling in.
Man, I just want to say how much you and Gans mean to this community. And when I say community, I mean followers of the way. You know, what you guys do is so important. And I just want to take a moment just to honor you. I know everybody in this community loves you. You guys are legendary. But honestly, your continuation, your steadfastness has rippled out. And I'm a product of 2017 coming across Canary Cry Radio and being like, I'm not alone. Like there's someone else out there. It was Dr. Chuck, the late Dr. Chuck Missler, and then you guys, and all this other stuff was in my head. So I just want to honor, like, it's such a privilege to know you, call you, your best buddy Basil to everybody, but I really do feel like you're a good buddy to me. You're a best buddy, and I just appreciate what you guys do. So the last way I could just exit off of this would just be to honor you guys and recognize what you're doing. I see you. We hear you. You're important. And God clearly is all over your guys' ministry and all over your life. And what better way to, take an opportunity to recognize that publicly?
Oh, shucks. Thank you so much, Rod. We really
We
appreciate
love you,
it.
man. We really do love you guys. You're it.
I'll
You
tell you
guys are it.
what, the strength that Gans and I are bolstered by, or the courage, any courage,
Yeah, it takes
that
courage. It does.
of course, comes from God directly and foremost. But if it weren't for the members of the community, like yourself, you stepped out and started following the calling that God brought on your life, and calling into the show here, being a good friend. This is what keeps the thing going. Honestly, I mean, you talk about all the different ways. We find ways to keep doing what we're doing. You and the Canarians like you are playing a huge part of that. So thank you very much, man. I really appreciate that.
Blessings, everybody. Thanks, Baz. It was great.
You bet. God bless. We'll talk to you next time.
See you.
Who doggy? See, look at that, folks. I don't need a plan for this show. Everything just turns out great. I want to apologize. We have already gone double the time that I was planning to go. I do see Sir Psalm 40 called back in. He made it back in. So I'm gonna take Sir Psalm 40's call. We're gonna give him the second half of his allotted call time, and then we're gonna have to take off here. Apologies to the other caller in the waiting room there. I wish I could just stay here the whole time, but things gotta happen. It's life goes on. But I really hope you call in next week, and I hope everybody else calls in next week too. This is what it's all about. And you know what, we're talking about the tip of the spear. We're talking about what's next. What is the formula for God's new movement in this community and communities like this, in a world that is now flooded with formats that we've helped to generate and sustain for many years. And you guys being here, I truly believe that this show is, at least for me, giving me some insight, encouragement, and at the very least, experimentation as to what comes next. What is God calling for next? So we're gonna, let's see here. I see. Okay, we're going to bring on Sir Psalm 40 here. We're going to finish that out, and that'll be that. Here we go. Sir Psalm 40, you are back on the air, buddy.
Hey, man, I didn't realize that you were trying to skedaddle out of here.
Oh, no, that's okay. I hadn't mentioned it until that exact moment, and it's no problem. I'm glad we got you back on here.
Obviously, I've been in and out, so I don't know like really where I left off, but basically the point I was trying to make was that, if you love God, you're going to seek God, and that will produce faith. Faith produces endurance, and endurance will make you persevere. So as long as you love God, it's like I feel like it's so simple, but I also feel like maybe I'm not articulate enough. But, seek the kingdom and seek his righteousness, and, all will be added to you. And God cannot lie. So do we trust that? I, I don't know. But really,
I
aside
know,
from all
I
the,
know the feeling, bro. I know the feeling. Exactly what you're talking about.
yeah, other than my like attempt to you know, make people feel better, encourage besides the encouragement, um, I really like you've been going on about this new Christians thing, and I don't think you've really gotten very many. But
No,
I mean, I've really only been a Christian for like 10 or 12 years. I mean, what is it that you would
just
like
a
to add
baby.
to the new Christian?
Just a baby. 10 or 12 years. What a.
Right, exactly.
I mean, I'll say this: if no matter how long we've been with the Lord, it should feel new. It should never feel like we're old hat or experts or something like that. I will say, being a Christian for 10 or 12 years, yet that gives a lot of experience. Like any Christian should know, you're no matter how much time you've been a Christian for, and I hope new baby Christians can understand this right off the bat, especially because someone who's new might be looking for either role models or mentors, or people to help them with their walk. The problems that appear as a baby Christian, they stay with you for the entire time. It's part of the fun. It's part of the journey, as we sort of mentioned a little bit earlier with another caller. I'm to, to be honest, I'm not sure if I don't have like lists of questions or anything. I mean, I'm curious. Now, if I remember correctly, you've had quite the journey um, before finding Christ, right? With I'm sorry, I hope I'm not mixing you up with any other callers, but with things like addiction or incarceration or something like this. Is that part of your story?
Yes, and also occultism and
Occultism?
new age. Yeah.
Right, right, right. Yeah, I got to be honest. I'm not sure. I'll say a couple of things. I got to be honest. When I think of someone who's been with Christ for 10 or 12 years, I don't know if I think of them as a baby Christian. Um, what I'm most sort of fascinated in, and have been for a long time, is what in the world, what set of circumstances paired with acute events brings someone to uh, the place where they at least they give an attempt to participate in something, in a lifestyle, in a belief or something that formerly was sort of considered so antisocial or uncool, or perhaps even hated or something like that. There's a transformation there that really, so far, I can only attribute to a pretty supernatural touch of the heart. And we know that again, our faith comes from God, and we read in the Bible about, even say, the Pharaoh getting ready to acquiesce to the requests of Moses. God hardened his heart. This mystery where we think we have such control over our own decisions. Um, there has to be an entire transformation even before someone says, okay, I'm going to commit my life to Christ. And then that transformation just continues. It's a sort of never ending thing. So, I don't know if I have any direct questions, but that's the sort of thing that I'm interested in hearing about.
Yeah, I totally agree that when someone comes to Christ, it's definitely a supernatural thing. There's all the debates about predestination and all that, but I mean, besides that, my personal experience with it was that it had to be supernatural because I was always aware of, the Christian ideology, and like I was pretty comfortably familiar with at least Genesis and Revelation way before I was a Christian. So like, I would read these things. I've read, the Quran and like whatever. I was in spirituality and philosophy. So like I was at least, I've dipped my toes in everything. And so I knew God existed. I understood the story of Christ. He supposedly God in the flesh that died and rose again, and his blood, covers our sins. I got that and I understood that, or, at face value, I guess. But why I didn't believe it, I really don't have a good answer for it. I don't know why.
Right.
And, typically people will say that like it takes crisis for someone to turn to God. And, I guess it was kind of a crisis for me, but like how I felt in my heart, I was indifferent to the situation. Like I was in jail when I said my prayer of salvation and meant it, but I wasn't really sweating that I was in jail. Like my life was like I was living. I just was content with that. And so yeah, and when I at the time before like I decided to take it serious, like I was reading the Bible, and certain things, like in Genesis, like I said, I had read it several times before this, but there were certain times where I would read it and seeing the dialogue of God talking, and he goes from saying, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, he's going to do this, he's going to do this, when the he things are still attributing to things that God is going to do. You understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
The like plurality. I started to see the plurality of God. And I mean, even hearing that Christ was God in the flesh even before that, I guess just all these pieces just never were put together, even though I knew them all separately. And I can't explain it. It's something, it has to be like a spiritual blindness, or, you know, something spiritual for sure, whether it's,
Right.
curses, I guess, or, I'm not sure. But something that maybe would be useful for us to talk about that could be a new Christian question is the topic of church. Like what is church? I am kind of new to church. I just started doing that 2021. So like 4 years I guess I've been at this church. And like what is church? If you say that word, like four people will probably get four different ideas in their head. But like again, it's kind of simple that just as long as we are together and we all legitimately love God, and it's like our hopes to like seek after God, you know, again, it's a supernatural thing that's going to take over. So wherever you may do that at, like, that's where the body of Christ is.
Yeah. Amen. Yeah. That union of purpose. It's not to reference Pete Hegseth, the Department of War or whatever, Secretary of War, and his.
You notice that nobody is calling him that?
I see it both ways. The
Oh, okay.
mainstream, yeah, the mainstream certainly doesn't, but I see certainly the alt. A lot of the alt guys do, but you know, the news was just absolutely flooded, breaking every sentence he said to the generals last week. So I don't mean to quote him necessarily, but it's the unity of purpose that really, that's something that we so rarely get in this world and is so rare for human beings. You know, we can have a lot in common. We can have, you know, our skin color or our location or our beliefs. You know, you can have a lot of things in common and still not be in unity with.
You know, circling back kind of what I was saying in part one when I called, like some people, um, I don't know, maybe some people are just too captivated by like tangible changes or like what they can get done with their own resources and hands. And, you know, I don't really know a gentle way to say it, you know, like too caught up in the world, you know, and I understand that it's easy to get caught up in the world, you know, and it is another supernatural thing again, the power of the media and not even just mainstream news, just, you know, like you guys were talking with the phones, like social media is the media now, not just Twitter, you know, and it has been all of them. The whole, I guess, what would it be, Web 2? Probably the whole Web 2 at least
Mm.
is, you know, that is the media, like where you get your information from, where information, what else do you do with the internet besides transfer information, you know? Um, but I forget why I was bringing that up, but I try to fast from my phone, like as much as I can. And, you know, I'm actually kind of lucky because I fell into a great job a while ago. I've been there for a while, but like I found it on accident and it's such like a small like niche little place and because it's we deal with produce, fresh produce, so it's like a we have busy work all year round, but it fluctuates because of different, you know, things are ripe in different times of year in different places of the world. And so because of that, there are like there's a 3 month period of time, like I guess it would be the summer and the fall, I guess. There's a period of time like at the end of the year where I'm just so busy that like I'm not able to really be interactive on my phone or barely even at home. Like I don't get home until like 8 o'clock at night and I have to be up at 4 a.m. And so this happens to me at two different times of the year. And I'm kind of forced into not being able to do anything, but literally I bring my Bible to work with me. I'll just carry I have a small Bible and like I don't have time for anything else. I have like maybe a couple of minutes to read a psalm or something and then that's it. But it's amazing how that worked out, honestly, because I'm kind of encouraged into this. Like if I was to try to listen to podcasts or something, I would probably screw up my job or, you know, get in trouble or something. So
Yeah, no,
yeah,
I mean
it's definitely good. It's good to
that's
try to is to try to exercise these things, you know, like I think you were saying earlier also to like to say no to the small things, like just like anything else, you need to exercise and start small, but you know, form habits or routines out of them. And to make it's if you're I guess diverting away from whatever it is that you're trying to say no to, but replace it with something godly, even if it's just reading, like there will be rewards for that. There will definitely be rewards for that for sure.
Yeah. Amen. I mean, that's the thing, man. This is just one little thing at a time. That's great. Yeah, I was expressing, I think it was last week sometime, like, man, if I read the Bible as much as I read the news, how much I could read that sucker in like a week. That would be excellent. Who knows? Maybe that's a thing, because of course I consider reading the news my job, or at least part of my job. But who knows? Why shouldn't my job be reading the Bible, doing this, doing the same thing? Maybe that's the tip of the spear that we're all waiting for here. Yeah, and like
Or even an audio Bible. You can do that, I guess, if you have
sure.
to.
Yeah. No, that's incredible. Well, thanks, man. Yeah, I really appreciate that. I mean, these are the things that again, we like to think that our personal struggles, personal battles, and personal condemnations are sort of unique to us and separate us from the body. But when we get them out there, we share them, we realize that, oh, this is a sort of a universal experience when it comes to being someone making their way through this world at a time such as this, with a commitment, at least passive, but hopefully active commitment to staying connected to Christ, following in Christ's footsteps, and also following his direct guidance. And it never ends. That's the thing. So we can all take encouragement and advice and tips and tricks for doing so in a world such as this. So appreciate you calling in, buddy, and sharing all this with us.
Yeah, man. And real quick,
Okay.
there are so many times in the Bible where like somebody's struggling, and what God tells them to do is to remember his words, whether it's in the New Testament and they're referring you to the Torah, or even before it was written. Like, God will always tell them, remember what I said, remember my words. Like, so reading those words is exactly what he tells you to do, and it's never changed. He's always said the same. He's always been saying that stuff.
Amen. Amen, brother. Well, thank you for being a part of the community, man. Thank you for calling in. Really appreciate that, and hope to talk to you again.
Yeah, man. God bless.
God bless, buddy. Amen. See, folks, that's what it's all about. Here's a little bit of this. I'll put that sucker on loop. It's Feeding the Ducks, our favorite royalty-free stock music that comes with the streaming software, and a total banger. Shout out to everybody who joined the Canary Cry text message alert system. We got a couple people who signed up today. Let's see here. A couple messages came in. Keep an ear out for these area code folks, because this is how you know there's Canarians in your area. 678 says, prayer for the unseen in personal relationships, please. Okay, there you go. Of course, we're going to keep 678 in our prayer. Personal relationships, that's a doozy, needs prayer. Thank you. 316 says, Canary Fly. Thank you very much. Canary Fly Radio. 509 says, happy to be on your text message alert system. Happy to have you here, 509. Thank you very much. Let's see here. 926 says, try colloidal silver. Helps a ton with healing. Hi, Basil. What are your thoughts on the little season period? When Jesus said his generation would see my coming, when he comes to the ones who pierced him would see us coming, and the apostles. Just curious on your thoughts. Yeah, I have not evolved my thoughts on the little season theory recently, but have gotten some requests lately. Gonna need to bring somebody on to really give me the scoop. Talked about it a little bit in the past, maybe a couple months ago, made our way through that, but it's still going around. Thank you very much. Thank you, 66. All right, folks, there you go. I'm going to let this music start again. And, of course, remember to text the word Canary to 877-740-3226. Get on the list. Don't not get on the list. Do get on the list. Oh, yeah, I'm not supposed to call it a list. That scares people. Get on the text message alert system. And of course, for value, which means we can only exist when our producers, that's you, put value back in with your time, your talent, or your treasure, whatever it is God has given you to put value into this world. You can help the show go, as we need it. It's the only way it happens. So go to canarycry.support to learn more. Or if you're an artist, you make something creative for the show, go to canarycry.art. Upload it there. We really appreciate that. All right, let me see. Is there anything else I need to say? Feels like there is. but I can't remember. So it is what it is. Oh, yeah, while you're at it, why don't you go to cagerattlercoffee.com. It's a great way. Look, don't even think about it for us. It's not even for me. Go to Cage Rattler Coffee. This is made by Canarians for Canarians. Plus, it supports the show, but it is the best coffee this side of the Mississippi, or at least that's what I've been told. And I believe it as well. CageRattlerCoffee.com. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Canary Cry Clubhouse. I will be traveling the multiverse. I'll be back on the show as often as I can in the next week or so. So can't wait to do that. Thanks for listening to this episode of Canary Cry Clubhouse. Make sure to tune in next time. But until then, think outside the cage.